Hello, people. Hello, people. Hello, people. This is Bio once again from Spirit Runners UK, and this is our normal weekly video that we would normally release on our channel to educate you about your health and fitness, and to actually help you, give you some tools that will help you to live a better life, healthier life. I hope you've had time to do some form of running, brisk walking, high intensity interval training, aerobics, and any form of fitness at all, Zumba, whatever it is, just to keep yourself active and keep the joints moving and keep the muscles moving as well. Today, actually, before I proceed with the topic of today, I'd like to thank all my subscribers, all those who've been liking my videos, who are subscribing to the channel, those who've been giving good feedback and a lot of comments. I want to thank loads of friends from the US, from the area, from Canada. So grateful for all your support and all your meaningful suggestions. Keep spreading the word. Keep sending out the link to family and friends so that they could, learn more about their health and fitness. Because our goal in Spirit Runners UK is to help to motivate you and also help you to realize the fact that if you trust in God and you do your part, then you'll have a healthier and fitter lifestyle. So without wasting much time, today, the topic we're going to be covering is sleep and its impact on your health, part 2. So on, we had Dr. Yemi Aino, who went into some in-depth analysis of sleep and how it affects our lifestyle, and how we need to take it a little bit more seriously. He's really gone into some very, very, very detailed explanation of I didn't know a lot of these things, and by the amount of views we've had on the first part of this video, it shows that people have found it very beneficial. So go and watch part 1 because there's a lot there. He's bringing a lot more in part 2. He's delving into a little bit more detail, and he's going to be talking about some practical ways of how it can help you if you're having problems with sleep. So without wasting much time, I'd like to introduce Dr. Yemi Aino. Thank you once again. Welcome to Spirit Runners U. God bless you. Thank you for sparing the time to be able to come again to do the second part of this video.
Thank you, Byron. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here again. It's a pleasure to talk to your viewers. Thanks again.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. Dr. Yemi Aino, as I said in the previous video, is a specialist in sleep medicine, family medicine, and psychiatry. He's trained in the UK and the USA. An extremely very busy man. Thank God for what he's doing through him in his field of expertise. So he's going to be talking as an expert on all this on this topic once again. So without wasting much time, how can it impact someone's weight? Is there any connection between sleep and weight, or is it just a myth that if you don't sleep well, it will affect your weight? Can you break it down for us so we can understand?
Well, yeah, I'll do my best. Sleep obviously is a biological drive that impacts various functions of the body. Now, weight gain is the propensity to gain more weight, or obesity is a complex phenomena as well. As most of your viewers would know, that being overweight is not just a matter of eat less and exercise more. Lots of people who eat less still gain weight or not losing weight as they would like to. Yes. So that informs us that weight gain or obesity is complex, and it's influenced by several factors, of which sleep is a part of. So this is not to say that sleep directly influences your inability to lose weight, or is making you to gain weight, but it's for you to understand that you have to do everything in your power to have a healthy body, which will naturally lead to less likelihood of gaining weight. Now,
Yes.
so I would talk about sleep um, and the way that it impacts weight, or sleep as it might
Mhm.
impact appetite. Now, I'm going to talk about, and I
Okay.
touched on this the last time, that uh, sleep affects certain hormones or substances we call
Okay.
peptides that can
Yes.
affect your ability to, that affects your appetite. Now, if
Okay.
someone is chronically or partially sleep deprived, that kicks the body system awry. So
Right.
an example is if you're someone, there's a lot of stress at work, maybe some stress at home, having to, juggle your
Mm-hmm.
work and family life, and you can't, you have to do homework with the kids, you have to respond to some email at
Mm-hmm.
work, there's some other bothers,
Mm-hmm.
concerns you have about your family, and you can't turn it off, you can't switch off your mind, your body's still
Yes.
on high alert, and you've been having some, you're not sleeping as well. So typically, say you are a 7 hour night
Yes.
person, and now you're having like maybe 6 hours, and your sleep
Mm.
is choppy, and you've noticed that over a
Yes.
few weeks, you're not as, you just don't feel as energetic. Now, when that
Yes.
happens, stress begins to affect certain hormones. A good example is
Right.
the cortisol hormone, which is your stress hormone.
Wow.
Now, cortisol is a very necessary
Okay.
hormone because it helps, is an anti, it helps us with the inflammation. It helps us with repair. It helps us with
Okay.
metabolism. It helps us with salt and water balance. It has very important functions. However,
Mm-hmm.
though, there are certain times of the day that cortisol should be high. Certain times of the day,
Yes.
cortisol should be less. So usually the
Right.
early hours of the morning, you expect cortisol, like, from like 5 o'clock until about 7, 8 in the morning, you expect your cortisol levels to rise, and you expect the cortisol levels to kind of ramp down towards evening time. Research has
Mm.
shown that people who are sleep deprived or partially sleep deprived, their cortisol
Mm-hmm.
level rarely subsides into the evening. So they have higher levels of cortisol
Right.
compared to someone
Mm-hmm.
who doesn't have as much stress, or someone who does not have sleep troubles. Now, what
Right.
happens is that when you have cortisol at night, if your levels are still higher going into bedtime,
Mm.
you are less likely to fall asleep quick. You're more likely to have
Right.
increased appetite. You are more likely to
Right.
crave calorie dense foods. You're more likely to want to
Right.
have a brownie or a cookie or something that will just kind of, that will give you a burst of energy or feel good. So that is how that
Mm-hmm.
particular hormone can affect your appetite and eventually affect your weight. Another hormone that we know, that we talk about a lot, is insulin. Everybody knows about
Yes.
insulin.
Yes.
Insulin is necessary for blood sugar regulation, and we know that
Mm-hmm.
it's been said that people who are sleep deprived or who have partial sleep deprivation, there will be
Mm-hmm.
insulin resistance. Now, insulin resistance
Right.
is a risk factor for
Mm.
diabetes. Insulin resistance is
Yes.
a predictor for weight gain. So
Mm.
also know that people who have irregular or sleep duration, especially, and I'm talking about sleep duration here. We're sleeping less than 6 hours, 6.5 hours
Yes.
regularly,
Yes.
less than what you were doing before. It sets you up
Yes.
for having insulin resistance. So
Yes.
that's another way how in sleep troubles, insomnia,
Yes.
also, the effect of sleep deprivation can have on your ability to pack on the pounds. We also spoke about some there's this neuropeptide, a peptide called ghrelin. We spoke about that the
Yes.
last session.
Yes,
How
we did. Yes, we did.
when you're sleep deprived, your body is also likely you're likely to have increased levels of ghrelin, and ghrelin
Yes.
is stimulates appetite. The body also produces what's called leptin, which is produced by the fat cells of your body. That's supposed to turn
Right.
off it makes you not hungry. It tells you that you're full. It's a satiety hormone.
Wow.
Whenever you're sleep deprived, your leptin levels drop, your
Mhm.
your ghrelin levels goes high, your cortisol levels go high, your body doesn't
Wow.
respond well to insulin, and this is a
Wow.
perfect storm for you to likely gain weight. Now, if you're
Mm.
also from cultures that you eat heavy carbs at night, you love
Mhm.
pasta, spaghetti, you do a lot of white potatoes, a lot of bread, a lot of rice,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
a setup for you having a insulin surge at night
Mm.
because your blood
Wow.
sugar levels are going to go high. And when you don't have, and if you're developing some insulin resistance, there's no the efficiency of insulin driving that sugar into the cells is lessened. So you have a lot of
Mm.
sugar swirling around your system, and your body
Mm.
produces more insulin because it's not responding, and that's
Yes.
chronically that's going to be a problem.
Wow.
That is, in a nutshell, in a very simplistic way, to highlight how sleep deprivation, not having good quality sleep, can likely increase the risk of or maintain obesity.
Right. Hmm. Wow. Wow. That's thank you so much for that. That's a real detailed explanation on how sleep can affect your weight and how hormones come to play. So they are both, it's like there's a connection between both of them. And I think it's very good because it helps people to understand that there is a connection and we've got to find the right balance. So we've got the exercise, we've got the diet, but we've also got to get the sleep right as well. They're all together, all, they all add up and they're all essential, all have their role to play. So next question I'm going to ask you is I noticed that you talked about it a lot, and it was probably not what one of the questions I had uh, in my notes to ask you, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So maybe you could just touch on it. You talked about the different stages of sleep and maybe the effect of what they do and stuff. Can you just I know you use the word REM and all that. Can you just maybe just educate us in what you mean by the different stages of sleep and how you know you've had a good night's sleep, because I think sometimes you could sleep for 6, 7, 8 hours and wake up and you still feel like you haven't actually slept properly. Is that tied to it, or maybe you could just shed a bit of light on that, please, if you don't mind.
Thank you. So sleep, I think in the 1950s, I understand, in the 1950s, there's this group of researchers who did some experiments while some people were asleep, and they put some leads or some electrodes on, on the subject's eyes, and they noticed that when that person was sleeping, that there was a lot
Mm.
of movement in the eye. So the person
Wow.
was asleep, but there was a lot of the eyes were going back and forth, almost like the person was watching something while he slept.
Mm.
And
Mm.
they were kind of say, well, what's this? Felt sleep was just one continuous block. Like you shut your
Yeah.
eyes, you open your eyes, and that's it.
Yeah.
Well, they now figure
Yeah.
that sleep is actually divided into two phases. We have the REM sleep, non-REM sleep.
Okay.
Now, REM is
Right.
rapid eye movement. Now
Okay.
so that phenomena that they recorded with the electrodes or the represents REM sleep. Now with everyone has REM sleep, right? And REM sleep is it differs based on your age. We
Right.
have children, when we have kids that are born, they have a lot of REM sleep, lots of REM sleep.
Okay.
As we get older, REM sleep begins to diminish. Um,
Right.
it begins to diminish, and in the older, as you get, like the older adults, the REM sleep
Hmm.
becomes fairly stable, but it's lessened from a child to adulthood. Now,
Right.
so when you fall asleep, you get in bed, you're getting drowsy, you get into a phase we call the non-REM sleep. So that's when your your eyelids get heavy, it's like you feel drowsy. Now you get into stage one sleep. So we have
Right.
stage and stage two sleep, which represents light sleep. Then we have REM sleep, which
Right.
is rapid eye movement sleep. Then we have what we call the deep sleep, which is when your body, which is really deep sleep. And why it's called deep sleep is the brain activity is very, very slow. It's
Right.
if I put electrodes on your brain on your scalp when you're sleeping, you will see a lot of the kind of activity you would see will be very
Mm.
slow, very
Hmm.
regular
Hmm.
amplitude waves, and that is the deepest sleep you can have. Now, this deep sleep
Okay.
tends to happen in the first half of the night. So if you go to bed
Right.
about 10 o'clock, so by hitting midnight, about 2 hours later, you be getting to slow wave sleep. That is very
Right.
deep. Now, that sleep is the sleep that growth hormone, testosterone, are at their highest peak, especially for men. Well, the research was done in men, so I'm going to use men as a proxy as well.
Yes.
But we know that, especially in men, and I'm sorry, I'm going off. I'm sorry, but I just want to touch on that. That
It's fine. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
for men in particular, it's been known that if within that first 2 hours or 3 hours of falling asleep, there's peak testosterone release at that time. It's actually been said that wakefulness inhibits that release for men. So it's very
Okay.
important for younger and mid-aged men in particular that you don't want to mess with that type of sleeping. It has to be regular. Sleep gives you that benefit, and of course growth hormone. So whenever you
Right.
fall asleep, you hit the slow wave sleep first, then
Hmm.
every
Hmm.
90 minutes REM sleep comes around. So
Hmm.
you go into light sleep, you go into deep sleep, then the REM cycles happens every 90 minutes, and you can have between 4 and 6 cycles of REM throughout the night. REM
Right.
sleep is when, or rapid eye movement sleep or REM sleep is when you're dreaming. 90,
Right.
80, 90% of dreaming occurs in REM sleep. About
Okay.
10% of the time you can have dreaming in non-REM sleep. But the dreams
Hmm.
are more, you probably may not remember them. They're not really well formed. They're kind of crazy and bizarre. But whenever you're having the REM sleep, you remember them. They're usually very clear. You can remember the
Hmm.
person. You can remember the event. It's very people that tend to have like PTSD or trauma. That's when they begin to, they can, they can reenact those dreams. That happens in
Hmm.
REM sleep. And for every
Right.
phase of sleep we can have disorders in those phases. So I can have a
Hmm.
disorder of non-REM sleep, like
Hmm.
when you have sleep night terrors, it screams out in the night, or
Hmm.
sleepwalk. All those happen in non-REM sleep. We can also have
Right.
some disorders that happen particularly in REM sleep, and
Hmm.
what happen, like nightmare disorder, for instance, or what we call REM behavior disorder, when people act
Hmm.
out dreams. Now, one peculiar thing that
Wow.
happens in REM sleep is when you're in
Hmm.
REM sleep, your ability to move your muscles go away. They are inhibited. And the reason why that
Right.
is that when you act out your dreams, oh, sorry, when you're dreaming, you're not moving your arms. So, for instance, I see lots of patients, especially the older patients, when the spouses say, my husband punches me at night, or my husband kicks me at night, and my husband is making motions like he's doing a golf swing, and he hits my head or something. So that indicates that while that patient was dreaming, and when you ask the patient, oh yes, I was dreaming about golf last night. But the reason is that there's a disorder where the inhibition and the paralysis that should occur is faulty. So he's not paralyzed,
Okay.
he's acting out his dreams. So that is a
Wow.
disorder that can happen in REM sleep. That is a problem, and it's very common. It's very common. Um,
Mm.
so that's why I just wanted to highlight that with
Yes.
every phase, you can have disorders, and the doctor or the sleep specialist can identify the problem based on how you describe the story or the history, and from the history and maybe from a sleep study if necessary. So
Mm-hmm.
that is REM sleep. We've talked about REM sleep. We've talked about non-REM sleep, and uh, and I'm sure we'll probably talk about more more sleep disorders as we go on.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for explaining that. At least it was a lot clearer now to me and to our audience, what the different stages of sleep and what happens in those stages. So I'm going to go straight to the next question, which is, so we've talked about sleep. We know it's important. We know it's essential.